You're listening to Seminary Dropout, and I'm your host, Shane Blackshear. Somewhere in between seminary and youth camp, it's Seminary Dropout. Let's go. David Wilkie is the co-founder of Radio Free Babylon, a consortium of artists, writers, and other cultural creatives. He's with me today. You know him as the creator of Coffee with Jesus. Dave, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Shane. Pleasure.
You know, Coffee with Jesus started out as just a one-off cartoon. What made you want to create that first strip?
Honestly, it was the political climate around 2011. And it was just so, Christians on both sides of the aisle were claiming God was with them. And it just got annoying to me after some time. And I created the first panel to just, say, Jesus doesn't really vote with you, and he's not even registered.
So what made you, after that first one, what made you decide to do more?
That's a good question, Shane. I think that the response to that first one was positive enough that I just decided to keep going. And that first one was just a single panel. It was 3 characters and Jesus all sitting around a table. And then I broke it up into 4-panel close-ups. But I just started turning it into things that people might bring to God, whether they should bring them to God or not. Jesus was going to respond.
And I would imagine, 2011, I had a feeling that Coffee with Jesus was older than that. But, and here we are in 2015. That was a good 4 years ago. But, Twitter is alive and well, obviously Facebook. I'd imagine that first one got shared quite a bit around the blogosphere and the internet.
It did. And I work in advertising, and I had a fairly popular blog at the time. And that helped facilitate the spread. And one thing that social media has done, since you brought it up, is allowed all kinds of imitators out there.
Sure.
There's a Reddit group that creates just blasphemous ripoffs of Coffee with Jesus. And hopefully people can tell the difference. And they often bring them to my attention and say, hey, did you know your work is being misappropriated? I'm like, yes, I know. Sorry.
You bring up an interesting point, because Coffee with Jesus, it's critical, but it's not harmful, and it's not church bashing or Christianity bashing. In fact, it's like, I feel like it's trying to expose a truer form of Christianity in Jesus.
I would agree with that. I think there have been times where I have bashed churches, and in particular, the easy target is always the mega church.
The art that you use in the strips, that's clip art that was taken from old advertisements, and Jesus is taken from old Sunday school clip art.
Exactly.
Did you draw Jesus's suit, or was that?
If you look closely, and you don't even have to look that closely, but Jesus' body is a reversal of the character of
Carl?
No, Kevin. Sorry.
Kevin. Okay. Yeah, I see. Do you have any illustration experience before you started this?
I doodle. Yeah. I have some fun with that. And I'll tell you another secret into the artwork. If you look closely at Joe, the pastor, he is Carl with just some
with like
cosmetic surgery, cleaned up his wrinkles and gave him a different hairline and a goatee. Yeah.
Oh man, that's hilarious. What was your thought process in deciding to give the characters a backstory?
Well, I want people to be able to identify with them. Naturally, Carl and Lisa, they're the conservative Christians who vote Republican. And if you don't agree with them on politics, you're probably not a Christian. People probably don't want to identify with those two, but they were the easy stereotypes to set up.
It's the low-hanging fruit.
Right. And then Anne, there are a lot of single mother Christians out there struggling. So she operates in that realm. Kevin is the sometimes honest skeptic who is in recent months much more agnostic than he is anything else. So I just wanted these people to have a a kind of a track to follow. If they were just regular guys, we would lose a lot of the humor. I think there needs to be some over the topness in order for the characters to just be inherently interesting, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think, a casual reader would probably pick up on, obviously these are the same characters, and a lot of them, the mistakes or the flaws in their thinking are in the same vein most of the time. Like, I think a casual reader would pick up on that, but may not pick up on that their backstory is fairly detailed. I mean, like, they've got like dating histories and divorces and like work history and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, Carl, it was early on in the series when Carl went through all sorts of work trouble. He was just not a good coworker as far as, well, let's just say he would create a hostile work environment for the women.
Yeah,
And
he had
so
a wandering eye. So to speak.
yes, exactly. So he needed to go off and become a landscaper, but not before he first failed at being a Walmart greeter and a restaurant manager.
Is landscaper one step down from Walmart greeter?
Well, that was so that he could work alone.
Gotcha. Yeah. He had trouble with coworkers and probably authority as well. Huh?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
This is not in any way autobiographical, although I would love to be a landscaper.
I read somewhere that you said that in the beginning it was mostly for laughs, and that if there were any points being made, that they were kind of incidental.
Yeah, I can think of one in particular where both Anne and Lisa are talking to Jesus about how much they love the footprint poem. And they're going through it and saying, and isn't that wonderful how there was only one set of footprints at the end? And that's because you were carrying the person, right, Jesus? And Jesus says, no, sometimes I just like to levitate. And, it was silly, easy punchlines like that there really was no value in them. There was no lesson. There was no, they were just kind of silly.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was reading one of the early ones recently, and maybe it doesn't fit in the category that you're thinking of, but I think it's Carl, and he's saying, Jesus, that was a great story when you turned the water into wine. Tell me about that. And Jesus is like, well, it just kind of happened that way. I didn't plan on it being my first miracle. And plus my mom, backed me into a corner. And,
right.
And Carl says something like, that's the story I always use to tell my Christian friends that it's okay to drink. And Jesus says something like, well, easy, Carl. It was a wedding. I don't put scotch in your drink every morning or something like that.
Yeah, I don't turn water into scotch in your office.
Scotch in your office every morning.
Well, and that one was because we all know people who are, hey, Jesus loves drinking. He turned water into wine, and you can take that too far. And Carl was taking it too far. And Jesus was calling him on it. So,
yeah. So the beauty of that to me is that it's hilarious, and it could stand on its own as just being funny, but there really is a deeper truth there about understanding moderation and misappropriating Bible stories, which happens a lot in Christianity.
Yes. Yeah, there was one where Carl was talking about the reason the country is on the skids is because of the dang gays.
Right.
And Jesus goes on to say,
Leviticus, right?
Yeah, and Jesus says, well, maybe it was that tattoo you got in the Navy or the lobster you had last Saturday. As long as we're going with Leviticus.
I love, yeah, exactly. And I love how Jesus says, oh Leviticus. There's something about that would crack me up. When did you decide to intentionally make a point?
When I saw the audience on Facebook starting to reflect a broad swath of Christianity, and people were actually saying things like, wow, I really needed this, or I can see who shares them and what they say when they share them. And it was often very encouraging that this silly little 4-panel comic was actually speaking to people. And it became somewhat of a responsibility to turn it into something that people could get something from.
And that was speaking to people unintentionally, somewhat.
Well, I mean, I wasn't completely blind to what I was doing there. I mean, I knew I was representing Jesus and I had to do it carefully. There was never anything that I would consider blasphemous, although
Sure.
many many accused me of blasphemy early on and still do.
Some would beg to differ.
Yeah. I mean, just oh, I could probably pull it up here. Pull up the most recent comic. Not most recent, but it was last week. And I try to stay out of the comments simply because I know that the community of fans will police the
Sure.
the naysayers. But I really wanted to respond to this one guy. Oh, it's Friday the 13th. It was a best of. And Anne is saying Friday the 13th just terrifies her. And Jesus tells her, nonsense. You know, it's nothing in the stars, nothing in the cards. And she says, but what if something bad happens to me today? What am I to consider that other than bad luck? And Jesus says, consider it life, Anne, or if it makes you feel better, imagine that the entire cosmos was out to get you today because you're so important. And some guy comes along and says, I don't think Jesus would say that. That's very harsh. I think he would say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I just wanted to respond, oh, because that was so funny, guy. Come on.
Everybody'd be clamoring to read that strip.
Yeah, it's like, it's a comic. It's supposed to be funny. And then, just prior to that one, Lisa this one's called For Better, For Worse. And Lisa says, Carl's being such a jerk lately, Jesus. Sometimes I swear, I just don't know. And Jesus says, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, Lisa, you remember. She says, I get it, Jesus. And this is the worse. So maybe we could change the vows to for sweet guy, for total butthead, just so it's clear. And Jesus says, certainly a lot clearer, Lisa, but maybe we put it in those terms in the premarital stuff instead. Well, that turned into a debate over domestic abuse.
Sure.
People were saying Jesus is advocating domestic abuse and he's telling Lisa to suck it up because that's for better, for worse. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Carl's just being a jerk. You're reading so much into this.
Yeah, that conversation, is divorce okay?
Right.
In the occasion of domestic abuse, like that's a huge conversation that's going on that you probably unwillingly and wittingly accidentally jumped into. Do you find that happens a lot?
It does happen a lot. And because the Christian tent is so vast and there are so many differing opinions and who knows how many thousands of denominations, it's very easy to offend. And yeah, I step in it almost daily.
And there are a million different lenses from which to view different things within Christianity.
Absolutely.
For most comic strips, the characters are mostly stuck in time. Lucy is never going to have some kind of epiphany and decide not to move the football when Charlie Brown kicks it.
Right.
And I don't think Garfield isn't going to decide that maybe Mondays aren't so bad. And again, I think like the casual reader of Coffee with Jesus might think that every strip is discontinuous and they're not serialized, but the characters do have arcs in their story. And like, I remember it may have been today's about, Carl making an effort on Valentine's Day because it means something to his wife. And Jesus says something like, who replaced the old Carl or something like that.
Right. That was actually, if you're looking at comics on my actual website, that was 2 Valentine's days ago.
Okay.
Because I've not updated. But yes, absolutely. And I think of, a comic like Doonesbury, where it's almost a soap opera.
Yeah.
The character arcs in those stories. I mean, the characters need to grow. If they're going to be Christians, there has to be some.
And Christians who are sitting down with Jesus pretty regularly.
Yeah, exactly. You'd better be growing. I mean, come on. But yeah, so they do. They wax and wane. They fall back into old habits, but they're trying to follow Jesus, I guess is the best way to say it.
Kind of like real Christians.
Yeah, kind of like.
It seems like you take really seriously the things that Jesus says, that you have Jesus say in the strips. Like you really make an effort to take that seriously.
Yeah, I mean, when you are putting words in Jesus' mouth, as I'm doing, I mean, sure, it's a comic strip, but I am having Jesus speak these words. That's as serious as delivering a sermon or interpreting a passage of scripture. And passing it along as this is perhaps what Jesus would say or is saying to you. Then yeah, I very much, I very much struggle over accurately portraying him as best as I can.
I think you on your site you at some point removed some of the earlier ones. Um, that were I got the feeling that you kind of just felt like they just flat out weren't worth it. Like they were just too controversial to bring any good out of.
There's that, Shane, but the other thing was I felt like they were encouraging the the imitators out there.
The trolls. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they weren't, I mean, if they were just silly, funny with very little spiritual value, or I could probably say there were a few early ones where Jesus was just kind of being mean, and that just isn't right.
Did you in the beginning did it kind of yeah, I'm wondering if it kind of blew up into this thing that in the beginning you didn't think it was going to be. I mean, just in terms of popularity. And so it's kind of like, because like I can remember on my blog, some of my earliest posts, like I stand by it, but if I'd known that this many people were going to be reading it, I probably wouldn't have phrased things certain ways. Like if I knew that anyone more than my like mom and wife were going to read it, I maybe would have done something a little bit differently. Did you kind of have that feeling at some point?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I scrubbed some of them from the website just because they're not consistent, and I wanted a body of comics that were unified in a way, and at least in the person of Jesus. And I mean, there were probably 12, 20 that didn't fit of the 800 that I've done so
Sure.
far. And and so I just felt the need to rewrite history, I guess. Yeah, I did some
A retcon as it goes in comics.
right.
What's your process for creating a strip? Do you get the idea of the dialogue first and then create the graphics around that, I guess?
The idea always comes first. Who's going to present it? Often what we'll do, and when I say we, that's my wife and I, it just happens that it's Carl's turn, you know? We haven't seen Carl in a while, so we need a Carl comic. What's Carl's issue? Or it's Kevin. Kevin's hard to write for because he's such a jerk. But Satan is hard to write for, and it's becoming that Satan and Kevin they could swap places because Kevin's that that much of a punk lately. But yeah, the idea comes first, then I'll lay it out, and my wife will come and look at it, and she'll go, "Oh, that is so stupid," or she'll just walk away shaking her head. And so it's a process. Sometimes I get rejected 4 or 5 times before I get it to where she'll chuckle, or if not chuckle, just say, "Yeah, I like that."
Yeah. Have you ever created a strip and where you had Jesus or any of them, if you had one of them say something and that you believe the point being made was true or was something that Jesus would say, but because those words could be interpreted so many ways that you scrapped it?
Yes, yes, that's happened a few times. There are issues that are lightning rods
Mm.
that I could easily anger one half of the audience, no matter how I came down on it. And so we're just not going there.
It's not worth it.
Right.
I wonder, and I don't really have a point in asking this question, but the parallel's so strong that I wanted to. The recent events with Charlie Hebdo, where cartoonists were killed for drawing Muhammad, I'm wondering what you think of that as someone who only draws the Messiah from this religion. I mean, does it carry any special significance to you?
First of all, I think the Charlie Hebdo guys were, I don't think there was as much freedom of speech involved there as there was just they wanted to tweak some people.
Antagonism.
Yeah, antagonism. That doesn't mean you should die for it. I did a comic where Lisa says to Jesus, "Isn't it amazing, Jesus, that you and I can sit here in a comic strip and no one is going to," and Jesus says, "I know where you're going, Anne," or "I know where you're going, Lisa. There's, let's just leave it alone." And, and she says, all I'm saying is that when our prophet is depicted in an illustration, and he says, "Lisa, I know what you're saying. Let's just drop it. But I'm more than a prophet, by the way." so that's how I addressed that one long ago. I think it was the Danish cartoonists were getting hunted down.
Well, the other major difference is that the criticism is constructive and you're someone on the inside speaking about your own group.
Yeah, and if you saw some of the depictions of Jesus that Charlie Hebdo did, not good.
Sure, we'd be offended.
Oh, and I was when I saw them, but I mean, and they were just not only crass and ludicrous, they were profane and pornographic, and it was just in the poorest of taste. But like I said, I'm not on my way to France to seek retribution.
Sure.
And thankfully, nobody is with me either.
Yeah. Well, do you get that? Not that this is anywhere in the same level. I mean, I'm pretty much transitioning to a different topic now, but do you get a lot of, are you even a Christian?
I have received that a few times, yeah. And I've had people send me private emails saying, "How dare you?" And "It is my duty to warn you of the error of your ways," and on and on. And yeah, it's unfortunate that people can't see the obviousness of what I'm doing. But, if your tradition is such that, God is not humorous or is not even allowed to be funny, then I can see where this would just hit you in the side of the head and you wouldn't know what to make of it.
Well, and it's not like Coffee with Jesus is alone in art that is misinterpreted.
Yeah, true.
It seems like you're very purposeful about keeping Joe's denominational affiliation a secret or obscuring it.
I can tell you, I don't know his. I mean, he's revealed as not Catholic in the new book. That much I can tell you. So that leaves it up to what other denominations wear that collar.
That's true. That's true. Although I read that he wears the collar simply so you'll recognize what he is.
In the comic, yeah. I mean, as a...
I see what you're saying. As a signifier, gotcha.
As an artistic device, that's what that's there for.
Yeah.
But, there's all kinds of independent Pentecostal guys that wear the collar, so who knows what Joe is.
Yeah. Why was that important to you to obscure that?
Because I look at the shares of various comics on Facebook, and in any day it can be shared by, you name it, and that denomination has shared it. It's really popular with Lutherans and Episcopalians, Anglicans. Baptists are coming along. There's not as many of them. Pentecostals share it. I even had a Mormon church share it once. But I just, I want it to be inclusive. I want you to be able to see your pastor in Joe. And Joe struggles just like the rest of them. He's the featured character today in a comic called Seize the Day, where he's just having a crappy day. And he's telling Jesus about it. But I didn't want, if somebody says, "Oh, Joe's Catholic," then, all the Catholic haters abandon the comic. Or Joe's,
Or if Joe's not doing so great, then the Catholics abandon the comic.
Right, yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
So he's just a generic clergyman.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of adding more characters into the strip? Or is the current lineup enough?
We take a lot of heat pretty regularly that all the characters are white. And I can tell you that Joe is not. He's Hispanic. All I will tell anyone is his last name ends in a Z. It could be Sanchez, Lopez. We don't know. But Gutierrez, we toyed around with the idea of adding some characters and experimented with it, in fact, online. And it was a flop. And we were only doing it in bowing to the pressure of the critics. And so we decided, we've got 3 men, 2 women, and Satan. That's plenty for Jesus to handle.
Why do you think the other character flopped?
Because we were trying too hard. We were going to make him or her, a young, late teens, early 20s, perhaps Bible college student, because that's what people wanted. And we just decided, why force this? It's not, it's our comic. It's not everybody's comic. Although, if you watch TV shows and read the blogs and the recaps of those TV shows, people think they own, property that's out there for consumption, and that they can make it change based on their clamoring. So we tried, and we didn't like the results. So we're fine with where we're at right now.
What's your physical process of creating the comics? Are you clicking and dragging clip art to certain places? How's that work?
I just have a giant file in Photoshop, and actually there's a file for each character. There's a Joe PSD, there's an Ann PSD, Lisa, and you turn off the frown and reveal the smile, or vice versa. You turn on Carl's stubble or turn off his glasses, and then just change the dialogue and the title, and boom, and save it as a JPEG.
Do you create these fairly regularly? I mean, are you sitting down once a week to create one, or are you waiting for a creative burst where you sit down and create 3 or 4 at a time? How's that work?
It's the frequency right now is probably 4 a week, and I create them as they strike me, and usually in the evening, the early evening, and I will put them out on Google Plus and Twitter the night before they go out on Facebook. And there's a different audience on Google Plus and Facebook. They're a little more, I don't want to say thoughtful, but they're less prone to screaming.
People on Google Plus are there on purpose, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll say, hey, typo in panel 2. Or
that's kind of nice. You get your draft out.
Exactly. I can usually tell by the retweets or the pluses how a comic is going to perform the next day on Facebook, which unfortunately is where the real audience is. I mean, today's was seen by 40,000 people, which is, some of the more popular ones, they get seen by 150.
A lot of the dialogue from the people who are not Jesus is so true to life. I mean, I've heard somebody say that before. Are you taking notes when you're having conversation, when you're with coffee with friends, or where's the inspiration come from?
Well, I said that Carl was not autobiographical, but a lot of the conversations are. I mean, if I catch myself, just being a jerk, just hating someone for no reason, I'm at Walmart and there's a clown in front of me in the checkout line, and I instantly don't like him. And I am Carl in that instance, or Lisa, or Ann, or whoever. Or if in your own prayer life, you're being selfish or stupid, that I catch myself doing that, that's going to get reflected in a comic. But yeah, without making it obvious, I do. I'm a note taker.
Do you ever one of your friends say something and think, I'm going to use that, but I'm going to wait a while so they know that I'm not just getting it straight from their mouth?
I had a youth pastor friend of mine say, okay, promise me you won't use this in Coffee with Jesus. But
the standard disclaimer before any conversation you have with Dave Wilkie.
Yeah. And I haven't yet used it. I promised him.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Do you feel like you're going to keep doing this for the long haul?
That's funny you asked that, Shane, because there are days where I'm just done. But people still enjoy it, and there's another book coming out, and it's kind of my, for lack of a better word, my mission at the moment.
After the last 4 years, are the ideas slower to come to you? Do you ever
absolutely? Yeah. There was, in fact, today's comic, even though it has the same title as a previous one, Seize the Day, there was one way back in probably 2011 that was called Seize the Day. It completely different premise, completely different storyline, and there are different ways to address the same issue. And in 800 comics, you're going to repeat some of the same things. I can't think of one right offhand, but yeah, it happens. It gets slower. It does, definitely.
Did you, from the beginning, or even as you went along, have other strips in mind that were inspirations to you? You know, in the same way that a musician, they don't create their music in a vacuum. They usually have inspirations that they take from.
Honestly, Shane, no, this is a 100% original. But it's been compared to comics that I'm familiar with, but didn't really. Oh, I would love to be the Far Side, but it's a little difficult when you're dealing with this subject matter.
Sure. Yeah. But that Far Side is a fantastic, cartoon, obviously.
But as far as format and style, I can't think of anything that I've really modeled this after.
Yeah. It feels like this is like the comic strip that we've kind of deserved in Christianity. Because I think if a lot of us, especially those who grew up in Christian homes, like we've, suffered the indignity of owning a book of like Christian cartoons that were terrible and awful in every way and not funny. But it feels like Coffee with Jesus keeps pace with the comics that we really like to read.
I would love for it to be taken alongside mainstream, regular, funny comics. I mean, that's an awesome.
Well, and I think that's the way I feel about it. And I think about like, although I haven't read them in a long time, but like the comic Toothpaste for Dinner. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Love that comic.
Oh, it's just so funny. I mean,
the guy's a genius.
He is such a genius. But I think when I read Coffee with Jesus, I think like this definitely stands with Toothpaste for Dinner and those other comics.
Married to the Sea.
Married to the Sea, right. They use clip art in that as well, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
That
guy's got an amazing collection of clip art. I don't know how he does that.
Well, yeah, I think it's great, and it's rare when something is as hilarious as it is poignant. And I think you do a really good job with that.
Oh, that means a lot, Shane. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, this has been so fun, Dave. I got a review copy of the first Coffee with Jesus, and I really wanted to interview you, but I thought, how in the world? I mean, this is an audio podcast. It's going to be nothing but me saying, hey, remember that one where...
I did a radio show with a host from Denver, and basically for the entire 15 minutes, she just read comics over the air.
You're like, you didn't really need me for this.
Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah, that was a funny one, huh?
That was your contribution to the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So for listeners, obviously, I'm going to have links to your site, and so they can actually go and see the strips and read them for themselves.
If you wouldn't mind, Shane, link them to Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining me.
It was my pleasure, Shane. You made it very easy. You weren't a jerk at all.
It's an honor. That's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
Well, clean this thing up, edit it, make it sound professional, make me sound like I knew what I was saying.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Seminary Dropout. Remember, you can find all the show notes for this show and all shows at shaneblackshear.com. Thanks to those that left ratings and reviews on iTunes this week. Remember, that keeps the show front and center. Also, remember, you can find me on Twitter at @beardonabike. That's @beardonabike. Also, I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/ShaneBlackshear123. And remember that Seminary Dropout is listener supported. You can visit supportseminarydropout.com and press Become a Patron. Remember, this music you're listening to right now is by D.L. Rossi. You can find him online on iTunes and at dlrossi.com. All right, thanks again for joining me for another episode of Seminary Dropout. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Love you. Take care.
Yeah, my best I always seem but